Are you troubled by movie spoilers in the middle of a podcast? Do you experience feelings of dread when you're in the middle of a podcast? Have you or any of your family never seen the movie Ghostbusters? If the answer is yes, then don't wait another minute. Stop listening to this podcast and watch the movie Ghostbusters. This is Diabolical, the show where four long-suffering friends dissect films' most dastardly schemes, then compete to improve them. I'm your host, Craig, and this week's movie is 1984's ectoplasmic emergency service comedy and legitimate phenomenon, Ghostbusters. So, Peril pals, pack up your group, get a grip, come equipped, grab your proton pack on your back, and let's get diabolical. That's Bobby Brown's On Our Own rap from Ghostbusters 2.
The GB2 soundtrack.
Well, it's up to us. We've
got
got to
take it out. That means when we do Ghostbusters 2, I'll have to do Run DMC's rap instead. Welcome to this week's episode. As host for this week, I'm the duly elected representative of the panel of Peril. In a moment, I'll introduce you to the rest of the panel, who will compete against me at the close of the show in a bid to become New York's most kawaii kaiju destructor, as we each try to come up with the best alternative plan for the movie villain of the week before we vote to name this week's most diabolical. As ever, I'm joined by three minions of Gozer. Please introduce yourselves and tell me, have you or any of your family ever seen a spook, spectre, or ghost? And I'll turn first to the best.
Hello, the best here. And quite recently, I saw something. I don't know what it was, but I can't quite explain it.
It's called a vagina.
Walking the dog late at night in the pitch black down a narrow country lane, which I frequent both day and night. I just had a sudden feeling that someone or something was behind me without having heard anything or seen anything previously. And I turned around and there was the shadowy shape of a man, but it was so dark I couldn't see any features. And then I saw, like cat's eyes, the eyes glowing ever so slightly and just swaying very, very slightly, unmoving, just staring at me. And I just kept my eyes on it and backed away until I got round the corner, and it was genuinely disconcerting and weird. I don't know whether I imagined it or whether it was just a trick of the light or something, but it really freaked me out. And this was probably about a year ago, around about this time last year.
Wow.
So you mentioned it to me on one of our little walks, didn't you?
Yeah,
I think a little while ago, yeah.
By a little posh place called Manderley, like in the Daphne du Maurier novel Rebecca. Funnily enough, a story concerned with ghosts.
Yeah.
Well, that's a reference everyone will be able to really get to grips with.
Yeah, I think you've painted,
Sure, some listeners will be familiar with the film adaptation.
I reckon that was just someone who'd got some glow-in-the-dark contacts for Christmas and they were just freaking you out.
Could be.
Just leg it out silently whenever they see anybody coming past. Quick!
Yeah, quick!
Okay, Turner. I haven't written Adam because the D key on my keyboard stopped working.
Okay,
I refer to you as Turner from now on. And also, this show is now called Diabolical.
Diabolical. Okay. Hello. Yes, it's me, the one they call Adam. Yes, nothing has happened directly to me, although I've had the heebie-jeebies a few times about a number of things, but I can't say it's anything in particular. But my grandma and granddad used to own a haunted hotel in Llandudno, where my mum and my uncles also lived. And they all are absolutely adamant that it was haunted. They always say, like, the second floor was cold and things like that. And then my granddad used to say about when he was putting linen back into the airing cupboards, he could feel somebody standing behind him. And when he turned around, there was nobody there. But the most famous one that my mum used to say was when they were sitting in the living room and they had a glass panelled door next to the front entrance. So the living room would be there, and they had a dog, and they'd be sitting around watching TV, and then all of a sudden the dog would get up, walk to the glass panel door, watch something walk across, and then up the stairways and track it going up, and then once it's seen it go up, and then come back down and sit back down again.
Yeah, that's weird, isn't it?
So that was pretty good, pretty a nailed on thing for me. And then my uncle, I think he said a few times he thought my granddad was coming to tuck him in at night, and yet there was nobody there, and things like that. So pretty spooky. Plus my grandma as well, as a nurse, she said she saw ghosts in the hospital from people recently deceased and stuff like that. So
Yeah, it's hard to believe that a Victorian hotel in Wales might be cold.
yeah, but a dog getting up and watching something walk in the front door and then up the stairs and then turn around and come back.
Yeah. I've seen a dog bark at itself in a reflection.
Oh yeah,
door.
yeah. Dogs bark.
I've seen a dog eat its own shit. So
yeah. I've seen a dog eat a cat.
Dogs are idiots.
Yeah. Yes, they are idiots. They are, but still, the animals are the ones who are like freaked out by these natural phenomena and stuff like that, aren't they? And ghosts, I guess. Although I don't have any reason to believe myself because I am very skeptical at best.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm sensing some cynicism, some skeptical vibes from Ben here, who lives in the land of wind and ghosts.
He does.
So what about you?
Never seen one, never heard one. Don't believe in them.
No.
Yeah, boo.
But I have heard stories. My father-in-law, he tells a story that when he was younger, a family member passed away, and on the day they passed away, that night he saw an orange dot in front of his eyes as he was trying to sleep. And it just grew bigger and bigger and bigger. And for the next few nights, the same thing would happen. And he told his mum, and his mum said, well, this family member, their shrine is in, I forget where it was now, but wherever it was, Shiga maybe. If you pray in that direction, it will solve it. And so he did, and he never saw it again.
Wow.
He's convinced it was a spirit of some sort.
Yeah.
Well,
I obviously just laugh in his face, but I'm a cynic.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything myself, and I always err to the side of, you never see any cavemen ghosts, do you? You never see any dinosaur ghosts or anything like that.
Yeah, but they all live in caves, though, all the caveman ghosts.
Oh yeah, all the troglodytes.
That's why you don't see him.
But they tend to all be Victorian, don't they? I suppose you could argue that's because like the oldest houses that we have. But whenever anyone tells a ghost story, it's either someone contemporary or a little boy who died up a chimney. But I've never seen anything myself. But my mum tells a story. So she used to live in a small flat in what she calls the clock house, which is above a takeaway in Colwyn Bay that has a clock on the outside of it. And when she lived there, she said that she saw my infant brother playing with a little girl, and this was before my sister was born, but it was shortly before my sister was born. And I think that she has said that she thinks that it was her. So a ghost of someone who's not dead, but is yet to be born.
Pre-ghost.
That's a new one on me.
Take, yeah. Very unusual take.
There's a lot of curry fumes, was there at that time?
That's before they took all the toxins out of curry. Curries was a lot more dangerous back then. Made it PC these days, haven't they? Curry. Taking all the good stuff out.
Now, as we are in our 5th season, I thought it would be a great time to try out a new segment, which I'm calling, I'm sorry, what makes you feel good? Thanks to the existence of Filmation's 1975 Ghostbusters, this week's movie almost had to go with a different title. But what was in contention? I'll share 3 alternative titles to Ghostbusters, 2 of which will be real and 1 fake. And all you need to do is spot the false one. So, number 1, Ghost Bangers. Number 2, Ghost Smashers. Number 3, Ghost Breakers.
Okay, so remember everyone, 2 of these are real and then 1 of them's fake. We've got to find the
Yes.
fake one.
Yeah, so let's start with Ben because he sounds confident.
Oh, I'm not confident. I can't even remember the options if I'm being honest.
First option is Ghost Bangers. Banging makes me feel good.
Bangers, smashers, and breakers.
That's right.
Bangers, smashers, and breakers.
Feel good.
Bangers and
Yeah,
smash.
bangers sounds a bit like a sausage, so I'll say that one's fake.
All right, so Ben's going with option 1, Ghost Bangers. Adam?
I'm going to say smashers because I think they'd all begin with a B. I think there must be something in that.
That's good logic.
And the best.
Well, I'll say breakers then to give us an even spread of all the
Oh
options.
my goodness. Odds are someone's right, and it's Ben. Ghost
Oh.
Bangers
Ghost
is the
Bangers
one that
are
I made up.
fake. Oh.
Because I thought Ghost Smashers was humorously sexual. So I thought I'd make another one that was similar.
Okay.
But I rejected my first option, which was Ghost Shaggers, because I thought that'd be too obvious.
Yeah.
Ghost fuckers.
Time now to delve into this week's film, Ghostbusters. Originally conceived by Dan Aykroyd as a futuristic sci-fi vehicle for himself and fellow blues brother John Belushi, the more grounded and contemporary take with which we're familiar took shape after Belushi's tragic passing, when the high concept was reconsidered in favour of a more budget-friendly option, and Harold Ramis was brought on board to assist with rewrites. The writing team took double duty, portraying half of the eponymous paranormal investigators and eliminators, bringing in serial collaborator Bill Murray to take Belushi's spot. To round out the lineup, Eddie Murphy was eyed for the role of Winston, but when the role was pared back to make room for Murray's improv antics, it passed to Ernie Hudson, and a legend was born. Coincidentally, when Hudson later auditioned to reprise the role in the animated series The Real Ghostbusters, it went instead to Murphy's Coming to America co-star Arsenio Hall, presumably to avoid confusion between the real Ghostbusters and the actors who portray them on screen. Despite little faith from Columbia Pictures, the film was a smash, both with critics and at the box office, where it became the second highest grossing film of the year and at the time the highest grossing comedy of all time. Beyond that, Ghostbusters became a cultural phenomenon, spawning a film franchise that continues to produce lukewarm sequels to this day. The aforementioned animated series, books, toys, video games, and Ray Parker Jr.'s catchy Huey Lewis bothering hit single. Ghostbusters is one of the very earliest films I recall seeing. It became an early favourite and remains so to this day. But what did the panel of Peril make of it? And let's begin with Turner.
Well, I think really this is the biggest film that we all will have extremely fond memories of and probably wax lyrically about as well. Watching it this time with my sort of critical head on and stuff, it was like watching it again for the first time, because you do put a different hat on when you watch these films for the podcast and stuff. And it was genuinely like seeing it again. And it's just aged. It's such a beautiful film with a few little bits here and there, but that adds to the charm, really. I think it's a fantastic piece of filmmaking, from the exposition from the start of how they begin and the introduction of the characters.
Yeah.
Within about 10 minutes, you feel like you've known them for a month.
They all have a perfect intro, don't they, the mains?
Yeah.
You just get who they are instantly.
Exactly. You get introduced to the concept of the film straight away, obviously.
Yeah.
You get thrown straight into one of the most terrifying scenes you'll ever see as a child.
I've made a note about that. I don't know if anyone remembers this, but to give you an idea of how young I was when I first saw this, I got excluded from class in what we call infant school. So that's pre-7. It must have been 5 or 6. For recreating that opening library scream. And I screamed so loud. I got thrown out of class and had to go and sit in the school cafeteria to calm down for half an hour. But yeah, very scary opening scene.
Yeah, it is. But the way it pedals straight on from that into their introduction, then back into the library again for the follower. To me, it's easily in my top 10 movies of all time. Easily. Yeah. Rock solid, never moves from that top 10.
I'd agree with that.
This watching has made me love it even more.
Oh, pleased to hear that. All right, well, let's go next with Ben then.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with Turner. It's one of those films from childhood that it's just a joy to come back to again and again.
Mm.
And now, understanding a bit more about the filmmaking process, I can appreciate why that is. And it goes far beyond nostalgia, again, as Turner was saying.
Yeah.
You know, aside from the brilliant premise of 4 fun characters fighting ghosts, I think the world building is fantastic.
Yeah.
And there are only a few differences between our world and their world, but still they have to sell it, and this film does really well.
Mm.
And I think it's because it's quite masterful in its attention to detail.
Yeah.
And then you've also got the interplay between the 4 main characters. I could watch those guys just sit in a room and talk, I think, because the actors play off each
Definitely.
other so well.
Yeah. Apparently, a lot of the dialogue is improvised. I mean, the script
Yeah.
was obviously polished by Harold Ramis, but still, when Billy Murray came in, they kind of let him loose. And they're both so skilled, Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis, that they were able to respond to his improv with their own. One line I would have sworn must have been written because it's so clever is when they talk about trepanning. Do you remember when you tried to drill a hole in your head?
Yeah.
And Harold Ramis's line is the one that's improvised there, and he says that would have worked if you hadn't stopped me.
Yeah.
So yeah, considering how much improv was going on, yeah, it's brilliant dialogue.
Yeah. So overall, I'll give it. It's a spooky, hilarious, and wonderfully original film that you won't be cross you streamed.
Oh, nice. That's great.
Oh, lovely.
And that's our
lovely,
5.
Lovely.
That's lovely.
Oh, fantastic.
It's funny that you spoke about the subtle differences between our world and their world, and that for me sums up why this film works for me and the 2016 remake didn't. Is it has this kind of integrity, this verisimilitude. It's true to itself. It builds this world, and although there's some wacky humor in it, it's always kind of grounded. Whereas the reboot, it's just completely off the wall. The things people say are things people would never say.
Yeah.
You know, the Hemsworth character is too stupid to be alive. The stunts are too wacky and goofy. People getting thrown out of windows and shit. I think the reason this has stood the test of time is that although these were crazy SNL sketch character comedy guys, they all really put in this performance where they live it. And it feels alive and believable, and I love that about it.
I just think they understand that the best comedy comes from truth, especially that generation of SNL guys. I think they really got that.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at some of the sketch comedy they did at the time, some of it is fucking off the wall. But for this film, I think they understood, or maybe Ivan Reitman understood and reined them in a bit and said, this is going to sell better if people can kind of buy into it. Which I think the original sci-fi version would never have had that feel. It couldn't have. And the best. What do you think of Ghostbusters? Has it stood the test of time?
I like Ghostbusters. I think it's good.
It's,
Right, let's move on.
It's,
Moving swiftly on.
saw Ghostbusters in the kino once. It was quite good.
It was always a childhood favourite of mine. I had Ghostbusters coming out of the wires, books, VHSs, action figures, playsets, pajamas, fucking bedding. Yeah, and it like everybody else has said, it stood the test of time. I think sort of grounding it is like a working class sort of story.
Blue collar.
Yeah, with their financial struggles and how they treat their job. They're knackered at the end of their shift and they're overworked and they can barely afford before things get rolling to get a takeaway.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff helps ground it.
The demonstration to Winston of how the ecto containment unit works and Ray's explanation of, the laser grid, you put it in, you have to press this button, you have to press this button to keep it gives it this utility. It makes it feel like a real piece of equipment, and that again grounds everything. And the car, having all the shit wrong with it, and he has to work on it for ages to get it into a fit state. Yeah, like you said, the details in it, they're great. We already talked about the car and how iconic it is. I think it's such a good design.
Yeah.
The fins, the lights. I like the one in Ghostbusters 2 as well, where they put all the extra shit on it, like the hazard tape and that.
Yeah.
Chunkier, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tanks on the side and stuff.
Yeah, but such a great idea to get an old-timey ambulance for it. Really,
Yeah.
really worked out.
But I think the design concept throughout, how utilitarian everything is,
Yeah.
the overalls, even the ambulance, you don't know what everything does, but it looks like it's going to be useful in a situation.
Yeah, I feel like that instrument he uses in Dana's apartment, the squeezy one, is actually a real instrument. I think it's for detecting carbon monoxide or something.
Sounds plausible.
Remember hearing about it on one of the commentaries or something.
Yeah.
One time. I might be making a Peril
technical
Pals.
thing.
If you know, correct me.
Yeah.
I think the lore of ghosts in this is really cool. I love the idea that Spate's catalogue and Tobin's spirit guide exist, and that some ghosts have a humanoid appearance and some look like, little creepy monsters. Yeah, like Slimer. That's really great.
In the I think it was Fortnightly, the Ghostbusters comic, it had a ghost and spirit bestiary at the back of each issue, which was called Spengler's Spirit Guide. With
I remember that. Yeah,
every issue. Yeah.
I think the montage in this is one of the best montages of all time, and another one is the one from Ghostbusters 2, where it shows them in action, like going around the town, going to Chinatown and getting the fish and stuff. Hearing about them being at a dance party, the chat show thing is great. It's just brilliant, and the music on that as well, really good.
Are the Ghostbusters like the working class Batman, essentially, but a team?
Well, no, because everybody knows who they are. That's important.
But they sort of the void they fill is a similar one to Batman,
X-Men,
and they operate.
Working class heroes.
They're working class heroes, but they're obviously they're called to answer the worries and the screams of the citizens of New York, whereas it's Gotham for Batman. They use these high tech gizmos and gadgets, but obviously they're slaving away to make ends meet and things like that. And
but they don't have any superpowers, so none of these.
Neither does Batman.
Yeah,
he's right.
Yeah,
they're university professors, so they're probably technically middle class.
Yeah, I guess they have to, but they're eating Chinese, aren't they? With the last of the petty cash,
they have no money. They are definitely blue collar types, I think, despite the degrees.
Yeah.
Just a few pieces of physical comedy in this that I really love. There's the build up that you were talking about when they get to the building and the crowd's cheering them on. And then it cuts to them fucking knackered climbing up all the stairs. Just brilliant. Sight gag.
Where are we? Teens, I think.
Venky on the roof having absolutely no fucking marshmallow on him. Everyone else is covered in it. He's got like a bit on his hair.
Yeah.
And just to say that the closing credits are how it's done. This and Predator maybe best closing credits ever.
Yeah.
Just fucking love it. Getting to see the actors' names over who they are. Something quite special about how it's timed. It's really good.
And I also really like how New York is shot. It feels just like a different world at this point to how a modern New York film would be shot.
Yeah.
There's lots of interesting Gothic architecture, real and constructed.
Yeah.
And the public spaces as well, I would say, are quite atypical for what you, as someone who hasn't been to New York, imagines from New York. There's lots of green spaces.
Yeah, there's no Times Square.
Yeah,
it's all places only a New York native would know, I think is what it is.
Yeah, and it's a unique experience despite the other films in the franchise that have come after.
Yeah.
I like Ghostbusters 2016 and Afterlife, and I'm really looking forward to Frozen Empire. I think it looks brilliant. But I'm just a massive mark for Ghostbusters in general. Feed me it. I'll have it all. Thank you.
I like bits of 2016. I think there's an incredible bit of improv between Melissa McCarthy and Leslie. What's her surname?
Grantham.
I don't remember.
Leslie Grantham, yeah. Dirty Dan.
Leslie Ash.
He's on his webcam, of course.
Just sucking a finger.
And it's one of the moments that's actually more grounded, and I think that's what I loved about it. It just felt tonally off to me, and the cameos from the original guys were just dreadful, I thought.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Didn't rate that.
Afterlife, for me, was just not funny, and that's what was really missing from it.
No,
I didn't
wasn't
like it
funny.
that much either. I just thought it was the same vein as the Rise of Skywalker. It was just
that wasn't funny at all.
Same plot rehashed, served up for nostalgia.
How dare you? It is not as bad as Rise of Skywalker.
No, God,
that
no.
is a slanderous
Um,
and onerous comment.
You'd have to go a
And I
long way
demand
to
you
get
draw
to
it.
that, to plumb those depths.
Hey, let's not
I
say
know.
things we can't take back. We've talked about the film in general. Let's talk in some more detail about our favourite aspects, sequences, and lines. Let's start this time with Ben.
There's so many. But this time, one thing I really loved and I thought just worked so well was when the Ghostbusters are freed from prison
Mm.
and they're taken to Dana's building. And everyone's cheering for them outside, and it's this great moment where they're being recognised for what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then they literally turn, and there's the turn in the atmosphere of the film as the foreboding music comes, and they look up the building. It's fantastic. It goes from this kind of moment of pure elation into pure fear, and I just think it's handled so well.
Somehow that's one of the best and most believable and scariest set pieces ever, where the street collapses, because it looks like a real street. I'm sure they must have made one out of concrete and moved it all on gimbals and stuff. I forgot to look up how some of the stunts were done. One of the other great things in this is the eggs cooking themselves on the counter, which I've never bothered to look up how they did it, or I'm sure maybe I heard once. I'm sure it must just be a
hot plate underneath. That's it. Yeah.
Little things like that work so well.
In that counterpart, there's another very small detail that just works so well. Even though the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man was created for this movie, you see Stay Puft marshmallows on the counter. It's just a lovely bit of foreshadowing that is really typical of the film.
Yeah.
The best. What are the best moments of the film?
I'm going to say the opening sequence.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, it instantly sets you on edge. You've got the theremin kicking in, which gives it a nice, even for the 80s retro vibe. And just the simplicity of those index cards shooting up in the air.
Which I think is done by blowing air at them, right?
Such a simple gag.
Yeah.
But it's brilliant because there's so many of them just filling the air. It looks quite spectacular.
The book stacking as well. I know they joke about it. No human would do it, but actually, if you went to a library and saw that, you would leave, right? I wasn't fucking staying here. What's going on?
Grandpa Simpson taking your hat off and turning strip back around.
I wonder how many times they had to shoot that scene, because it'd be awful to reset all the cards.
Oh yeah,
it's a lot of cards.
Can you imagine? I just burn the set down. Build multiple sets for multiple takes, just burn it down every time.
In Venki's intro, he's electrocuting that kid with the gum. Well, imagine that on every movie set, there's 18 guys like him who have to pick up cards and do all the shitty little jobs, or they get electrocuted.
You can keep your $5. I will.
All right, well, Turner, I think that I would have a stab at what your favorite sequence would be, but let's see what you think it is.
Go on. No, there's so many obviously to pick from, but then I made up my mind.
Well, being our biggest horror fan, I would have suspected that your favorite sequence would be the excellent chair possession scene.
Oh yeah, it is very good. Yeah, I do like that bit. But no, it's another big set piece moment, shutting off the containment system, and then the light show afterwards, and then the music as well that forms part of that. What's the name? Mick Smiley magic thing, and then it's just when they pull up outside the station, it's still sort of like a bit jokey, but you can tell the jokes are being made through sort of gritted teeth. Like, come on, we can maybe joke our way a bit out of this.
Yeah,
but it's dead serious. And it's like the most serious part in the film, I think.
Yeah.
And I think the light show and that still... I watched this on streaming on ultra high definition, and it still looks absolutely gorgeous. I loved it.
Yeah, I've always loved that. I would say that, though, rewatching it this time with an eye to what is my real favourite kind of sequence, for me, it's when they have to plead their case to the mayor, and all those other guys are there that have just these one-liners. They have like one line of dialogue and they're fucking brilliant. The guy who says the walls in 57th precinct were bleeding, and the cardinal guy who comes in, just such a great sequence from beginning to end. I love it. I had this single, the Ray Parker Jr. single on vinyl, and I lost the case to it at some point, but we used to have some vinyl, like blank cases that were just kind of beige paper with a hole in so you could see the record label through this window. And I drew on it the Ghostbusters logo, and I wrote on it, I think it's a sign from God, but don't quote me on that. Now, what a fucking dorky kid picks that as the line from the movie that he wants to write.
What, were you like 7?
Yeah, but I thought it was being clever because he says, don't quote me on that, and I was putting that as the quote, you know? That was the joke to me.
That's what I mean? For a 7-year-old, to pick that out.
Well, you've met me.
2 things I'd say about that is what I noticed throughout the whole thing was like what you've just said is encapsulates what the whole movie is really, really good at is there's not a single bad piece of casting in it. Like you're saying, there's people with one line and they absolutely nail it. And then it's like the woman
at Lewis's party.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't do anything. She's there for like 1 minute. She's just perfect.
And they just dance, and that's it. And it's spot on. And then again with the maid in the hotel, and they boss it. What the hell are you doing? And it's like,
absolutely spot on. Every piece casted. The Dean Yeager, such a brilliant. He could have been the villain in like a Animal House type movie.
Mm-hmm.
Just perfectly.
Crusty old Dean.
William Atherton's brilliant as well.
Yeah,
again,
of course, yeah.
Proving why he is the best arsehole in Hollywood.
Oh yeah, I don't know why he hasn't had a more prolific career. After watching the 2 Die Hards again and this, I was thinking, like, why? I couldn't get my head around it.
I think maybe because he was sick of playing an absolute arsehole in every single film.
I would have just put him in anything, in whatever he wanted to do. I would have just gone. I would, as an agent or like a studio, I would have gone, right, what do you want to do? And I would have gone, okay, you do that. I love his delivery of, what is the magic word? You spoke about, the magic song there. Anybody got any favourites from what I think is one of the best score / soundtracks of the 80s?
It's quite a big mix, actually, when you look at the score. Like I said, in the opening sequence, you got the theremin, sort of retro style.
Yeah.
You got quite modern jazzy stylings later on. Quite classical comedy stylings like boom, ba-dum, 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 ba-dum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all over the place, but in a good way. It all forms a whole. Yeah, good variety.
Yeah, it's great. What about you, Ben?
I like that one. One of the lesser known songs from it. It goes something like, "Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters."
Yeah.
Do you know that one?
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
But I think of the score, I like the piano when they're in the firehouse. Dun, 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 dun. It's usually used around the firehouse, I think, that one, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the
lovely little motif in it, yeah.
All right, then. Let's move on to our favourite lines. And we'll start with the best. The best. The best.
Don't you save the best for last?
Sometimes, but not this time.
I've got quite a simple favourite line, which is Peter in the library at the start when they arrive to investigate the haunting, introducing themselves to the library manager. And he says, Dr. Venkman, Dr. Stantz, Egon.
Yeah.
It's so pissy and dismissive. It's very, very funny. It instantly establishes Pete's character and his jokingly adversarial relationship with the other two, really, but specifically with Egon.
Yeah, it's great. Next, let's hear from Turner.
I think you might have this same line, so I'm happy to share it with you.
All right.
Because it's one that you and I think have mentioned a couple of times, and it's right at the start, and it's Ray, and it's like, listen, you smell something?
Yeah. that was on my short list, but I had a feeling you'd go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, love it.
Not just that, but the little piano between. Listen.
Yeah. Fab.
Okay, Ben.
My favourite line has been my favourite for decades.
Yeah.
And I just love it when they boost up the proton packs for the first time. Do, Ray, Egon. And then
That's
that
Isn't that
smile.
Ghostbusters 2?
It's Ghostbusters 2.
Ghostbusters 2,
Oh,
isn't
is it?
Oh!
Yeah.
You have sullied this
In the
movie's good name.
courthouse.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
You've not even watched the right movie.
Yeah, I haven't.
You go,
And then my favourite in this one then is from the ad. I love "We're ready to believe you" and how it's all slightly done out of time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Little point as well, like really cheesily.
Yeah.
Put on fake smiles.
I didn't write it into the script or anything, but I only found out recently about this. They made a version of that ad for cinemas where they had a real phone line on it, and if you phoned it up,
Yeah.
you'd get a voicemail from Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd telling you that
Yeah.
they were out on
Wow.
a case and stuff. Quite cool.
He ran it. Ivan Reitman did it to boost the popularity, didn't it? It was like after a couple of months of it being out, he put the ad out, and it was
Blair Witch Eat Your Heart Out.
Yeah.
Well, as nobody's mentioned either of these, I'm going to tell you my two favourite lines. My first favourite line, I think, is absolute fucking genius. When Venkman goes round to investigate Dana's apartment, and he says to her, "What's in there?" And she says, "Oh, that's the bedroom, but nothing ever happened in there." And he says, "What a crime."
Cute eye rolling.
And then very shortly after that, when he goes into the kitchen and sees all the fried eggs on the counter, he says, "Dana, are these the eggs?"
I thought you were going to say the bit where he walks in and he tinkles the keys on the piano. That's right,
Yeah,
boys. It's Dr. Venkman.
That whole scene is just incredible. And of course, when he pulls the tablecloth off, the flowers are still standing. Quite often when we do these, I have to procure the film that we're going to watch. And I thought about it for a second, and I thought I could watch it in my head if I wanted to. I don't need to stream it.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen it so many times that I'm confident I could play it back in my imagination without missing anything from it.
Let's do that as a bonus episode.
Thinking about it must be the film that I've seen the most of any.
Yeah.
It must be.
I must have seen it over 100 times.
Yeah.
Now, before we get to the competition round, if you're new to the podcast and you're enjoying it, please like, rate, review, and subscribe wherever you can, but especially the Big Apple. Some snot-nosed little twat told us his dad said we're full of crap, and that's why we're going out of business. Let's see how long he stays in business. Prick. I'm talking to you, Jason Reitman. In Ghostbusters, primary antagonist Gozer the Gozerian resurrects cultists Zool and Vince Clortho to serve as gatekeeper and keymaster to its dimension, such that through their unholy union, Gozer might once more breach the walls between worlds and bring forth a minor apocalypse. Thanks to fanatical architect Ivo Shandor, the site of this ritual takes place atop an apartment building in New York City. Ultimately, Gozer is foiled by the city's unique paranormal investigation and elimination unit, the Ghostbusters, whose eager puppy race dance chooses brand mascot Mr. Stay Puft as the form of the destructor, allowing the Busters to toast the 100-foot Marshmallow Man with a huge fireball that erupts from the dimension door when they cross the streams of their proton packs. But how did the panel of peril rate Gozer's diabolical scheme? Was it a good concept? And how well was it pulled off, Turner?
It was all there for the taking, really, and it just happened, it sort of, the fates aligned that the Ghostbusters formed at the beginning of all this paranormal activity. And if it weren't for them losing their slots at university, if they'd managed to produce results, it was on a knife edge, really, I guess. So it was just unlucky for Gozer, you could say, and Shandor, that there was somebody there to do something about it, because who would have thought that there would be anything standing in their way? Happenstance. And then the weird thing is, the gatekeeper and the keymaster are right there, and they're basically the two dogs in the statues, aren't they, or whatever, essentially,
right.
Or whatever, these beasts. So they're right next to each other at the start, aren't they? And then they go off and they find individual hosts, and then they go off away from the building, and then they come back to it again.
Lewis running away ruins it, what they want to do, doesn't it? But I think the idea is that their two apartments are directly under the statues.
Vince seems like a bit of a yes man, doesn't he? He's not too clever.
He's very pleasant, isn't he, Vince Clotho?
Yeah.
He's happy to tell Egon everything.
Yeah, he is. He's great, isn't he? So I just thought he's obviously, he's one of these people who's got to where he is this high station of Gozer worshippers because he's quite happy to do whatever he's told and be a nice guy and stuff like that. And then he's like, oh, when he realizes when the thing blows up, he's like, oh God, yeah, I'm supposed to be doing this, aren't I? Oh, right, I better run. And that's when he buggers off.
Okay, the best.
I think to all intents and purposes, it's a good plan. It's just Gozer's bad luck that the Ghostbusters happen to come into business what is presumably a couple of months before their plan comes to fruition. I'm assuming that like the cops and the National Guard would have been able to do fuck all.
Yeah.
So it's it's good. Good plan.
Thanks for that wonderful insight there. The best.
Yeah.
You agree, Ben?
I do. I think it's a great plan. It's a very long time in the making. Gozer's built up a legion of cult followers over presumably hundreds, if not thousands of years.
Yeah.
And then when all that careful planning, turning the building into a superconductor essentially, so it's able to access the portal, I think it's all good. Just very unlucky the timing. And if it was in any other city, there'd have been no Ghostbusters. They got away with it. So it's very, very unlucky. So I'm going to give Gozer the Gozerian 10 florets of ethereal broccoli.
A little bit stingy, but not bad. Well, I think there's an argument that Gozer creates the Ghostbusters by... It's like what Winston says about, has it ever occurred to you the reason we're so busy lately is because the dead are rising from the grave.
Right.
And I think Gozer's presence is causing that. And it creates an opportunity, the supply and demand, that there's a need for Ghostbusters. And that's why, Egon, instead of thinking about the kind of studies he would normally like to do, starts thinking about what if we did a laser grid and caught ghosts for money.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's always business in Victorian hotels in Llandudno, so...
Exactly. And what do we think of Gozer as a villain in general? Is Gozer a credible threat? Does it feel like a frightening villain?
I like the fact that the tension, it ratchets it up all the way through the movie, and then once by the time it dawns on them what's happening, then it's upon them, and is a gigantic threat, obviously, straight away, and it is like the meeting a god, isn't it, when they finally meet Gozer and stuff like that. So I think it's... I really like that. Again, it's another one of these things that seems to be the key of the older style of filmmaking is build up that tension and reveal the big bad towards the end, and don't just keep giving glimpses of it or anything like that. Or
does mean that she doesn't get a lot to do, before she becomes a giant marshmallow man.
Yeah.
But what about the physical actor Slavitza Joven and the voice actor Paddy Edwards?
Iconic, really, I think.
Yeah.
Are you a god?
Yeah.
That's a great line after it. Always answer yes.
We've already talked about Vince Clotho. He's kind of a nice guy. What about Zool as a villain?
Portrayed by Sigourney Weaver, fantastic. The way she does, especially when he knocks her out with something, and she's on a bed.
Yeah,
like that, and it's like
roaring and stuff.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I wonder if they were saying to her, maybe you should do this, or maybe it was. I reckon it's probably Sigourney saying, well, if I'm supposed to be like this half breed of an animal demon type thing mixed with human, maybe breathing should be different and things like that. Awesome. Yeah.
Also, there is no Dana, only Zoo. This is the part of the show where the panel of peril compete for the title of Season 5's Most Diabolical. Up for grabs is 1 point for each vote, which will go towards the series leaderboard. Gozer and its minions orchestrated its return as a giant marshmallow man in New York City. But what would you have done differently, Turner?
Ivor Shander is the name.
Close enough.
Oh, sorry. Ivor Shandor is the name. Unnecessary surgery and architecture are his game. Ray says it himself. He's either a certified genius or a madman. It's a fine line that Evo treads with skill. 55 Central Park West has gone down a treat with the residents of New York City and the governing authorities. It truly is a wonder of the Art Deco period. Shandor goes to the mayor and tells him this building is the first in a series of buildings that he wishes to create. The more the merrier, he says. Anything to get his name attached to them. The blueprints for the following buildings are less complex than Central Park West and represent a significant cost saving on the traditional designs currently up for tender. Impressed, the mayor says he would prefer his bribe in a nondescript bag rather than a sack with a dollar sign on it. Shandor's skills as an architect are second to none, and by the outbreak of Second World War, there are a dozen buildings in New York City that bear his name and the symbol of his company, Shandor Architect Inc., with a picture of a giant three-headed hydra with wings looming over a skyscraper. Much like the personality and skill of Shandor himself looms over the landscape of the city itself, almost synonymous with that golden age of the city. His company crest is plastered across the buildings. In the entrance, the lobby, outside each lift, on the roof. You catch my drift. You could say that it's impossible to avoid that iconic visual. So much so that when the Ghostbusters try to clear their head on top of the building, they see that famous image in front of them. One of the most famous Ivo Shandor Architect Inc. that they've grown up with, and the images pop into their mind, much like popping candy into a child's mouth. So basically, my plan is, instead of building just one building, he builds multiple buildings and becomes synonymous with New York City architecture, and hence everybody knows who he is. And when they see his images of his work, it's always got that particular picture of a three-headed hydra with wings on it standing over a skyscraper.
Yeah. So, like, when you think of Nike, you think of the tick kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, that's quite good.
Yeah. I don't think that there'll be any challenges to that, will there? Feels pretty
Certainly
solid.
not from me.
No?
Certainly not from me.
All right, then.
It's pretty good.
In the extended lore, Ivo Shandor also was the architect of the Sedgwick Hotel, where Slimer lived.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Well then, let's hear from the best.
For today's performance, I shall be essaying the role of the gatekeeper Zool. For my plan, I shall require the use of a corkscrew, a 500ml bottle of fairy liquid, lemon variety, a 400-gram loaf of Hovis Best of Both bread, a copy of a key made in a small Timpson's outside a big Tesco, a waste paper bin, a hammer, a cheap bottle of Thunderbird, a hardback copy of William Peter Blatty's novel The Exorcist, an ordinary house cat, a 1980s-style mobile phone handset, and some tinsel. Now take all of those pieces and place them inside the waste paper bin and throw it out the window of the car that we're driving in. That's my big twist, you see. We're already in the car. Yes, the car. You know, the car? Nah, the hell with you. Anyway, on with the plan. What's my plan? I don't know. I'm making this up as I go with quite literally no idea what my end point is. So, Zool. Wearing a sexy little number. A sexy little number. Beautiful little sexy, wexy, itsy, bitsy, orangey, dressy, wessy, flim, flam, flooby, choo choo. We need to get you out of that and into a smart business suit and into the GBHQ when the boys are out and about, leaving Janine alone at her desk. Then bring loads of Chinese food in, then top up the petty cash tin, then let them just think about Chinese food. Chinese food. And bang! Done.
So the form of the destructor is what?
Chinese food. Just
Chinese
shitloads of it
food.
raining down from the sky, and they all just
Noodles.
drown in Chinese food.
What do you think is the worst piece of Chinese food that could land on you from a height?
Oh.
I genuinely think just a noodle with very light sauce on it. I don't think you'd be able to climb up it.
No, a giant wonton.
What do you mean you have to climb up it? Why would you want to climb up it?
To escape.
Like,
escape from
you
drowning.
don't drown in it. Not just one noodle, an avalanche of
A
noodles.
heavy rain of chow mein.
Multiple noodles.
What if you got hit, just glanced on the side of your temple with the bone of a spare rib? Ah, ow.
He throws a spare rib.
I think you'd be alright with fortune cookies. You barely feel it. It just glance off you, you'd be fine.
So, as you might be able to tell, I was making that up as I went along, and I couldn't come up with any actual
You
ideas.
managed to disguise it very well, I must say.
Yeah, it's good, wasn't it? Artfully done.
What happened to the cat? The ordinary
It
cat?
goes in the bin. Goes in
Yeah,
the bin.
all
Out the
that
window
stuff
of
in
the
the
car.
Well, I'm
Bin
not
of
voting for you. That's
cats.
horrible.
Ah.
That's horrid.
Alright, it goes in the Chinese food. Is that better?
Yeah, much better. That's the the circle of life. That's the way it should be.
Isn't that
Cat
where
is
most
born,
Chinese
cat
cats
is
go
harvested.
anyway? Oh,
I have Chinese food.
Return from whence you came.
You sound like you're ready to counter that with your own plan, so let's hear next from Ben.
Egon, Venkman, Ray, and Winston follow the secret staircase to the top of Dana's building. On the roof stands a huge sculpture, a tall kettle with a graceful elongated spout and a sturdy handle. Is that a... begins Winston. 1920s Art Deco coffee pot, says Egon, finishing his colleague's sentence as a smug smile moonwalks across his lips. Beyond the coffee pot, the portal to Gozer's world is already open. The Ghostbusters aim for the flat top, but to no avail. Gozer lightnings them off their feet, as in the film, then demands they choose the form of the destructor. Venkman tells the gang to clear their minds, but it's too late. A giant, boxy machine, embodying the practical and bold design aesthetic of the 1980s, stomps into view. Who thought of a coffee maker? Chastises Venkman. It's not any coffee maker, says Egon. It's a Gaggier Espresso, the king of coffee makers. And I couldn't help it. I love two things, coffee and technology, and the Gaggier Espresso maker is the perfect synthesis of both. The sounds of bustling New York fade into an eerie downpour of an otherworldly coffee storm. In the caffeine-drenched streets, hundreds of New Yorkers stand before the gigantic espresso maker, steam billowing from its colossal spouts. From their vantage point, Egon, Venkman, Ray, and Winston exchange worried glances as the machine churns and groans. Looks like Gozer's really brewing up trouble, Venkman quips.
Oh.
The machine begins to pump out a river of scalding espresso, flooding the avenues. The spooky brew washes over the New Yorkers, turning them into a horde of espresso zombies, their eyes wild with insatiable coffee lust. The machine follows up with a barrage of giant coffee pods, each one exploding on impact like a caffeine bomb. As the Ghostbusters prepare to cross the streams to close the portal, the espresso machine unleashes its deadliest weapon yet, a massive steam wand, scorching everything in its path with superheated milk foam, including our four heroes. With his dying breath, Venkman, skin peeling from his face like the bloke in Raiders of the Lost Ark, looks at his dead teammates and wheezes, "Next time, let's stick to tea."
What's the significance of that ending?
Yeah, what
Just
benefit does that give them?
yeah. Just you couldn't think of
Slightly less
anything
hot.
to write at the end there. Just
Very slightly
Usually-
less hot.
usually.
Well, you
yeah,
don't get the
come up with
hot, you don't get the hot frothy milk, and you know.
Well, actually, they make the water in coffee machines slightly cooler than tea because tea has a bitter flavour that you want boiling water to take away, whereas coffee, you want it to be bitter. So Generally let the water go down to about 82 degrees before you pour it.
I thought you were just a
Oh.
Ghostbusters nerd, but it turns out you're a hot drinks nerd as well.
Yeah, if you're having even instant coffee, put cold water or milk in with the instant coffee first, and then put the hot water afterwards.
It does come out better.
Yeah.
Anyway, my point was Ivo Shandor, he saw how much New Yorkers love coffee, and that inspired him. And so he made a sculpture of a coffee pot on the top of the building, and obviously that influenced the Ghostbusters' minds when they were.
It's brutal. I'll give you that. Scolding everybody. Okay, then I'll bring us home. I'd like to hear next from me, Craig. Oh, I get it. Very cute. It's whatever we think of. If we think of J. Edgar Hoover will appear and destroy us. Parapsychologist Peter deduces that Gozer the Destructor will assume the form of the strongest psychic image conjured by the imagination of any given buster. Or perhaps, as the self-proclaimed duly elected representative, it was always going to be Ray's choice. But this isn't Gozer's first rodeo, and it has allies on our plane of existence. In the early 1920s, Gozer instructs architect Ivo Shandor to leave plans for a team of artists to construct a number of subliminal markers throughout the building, frescoes and plaster reliefs leading from the lobby doors up the many flights of stairs to the roof. As the impressionable Ray makes the climb, he subconsciously takes in the hidden patterns and suggestions that will later inform his response to Gozer's demand. Choose and perish. It can't be, protests Ray. What is it? Asks Winston impatiently. Rounding the corner strides a writhing purple titan of ropey sinew, with an enormous shock of wiry black hair, oozing sex. It's the artist currently known as Prince. An in-depth study of Spate's catalogue and Tobin's spirit guide by someone who knew what they were looking for would confirm that Prince was an immortal sexual spirit who has strutted his way through time since the dawn of mankind. Rhythmically bobbing and peacocking down the street towards the building, the 100-foot Prince takes out hundreds of civilians, power sliding over them with a powerful thrust of his crutch, attacking them sonically with a power chord from his guitar. As he reaches the church, he fucks it real hard. Nobody fucks a church in my town, threatens an angry Peter. I have an idea, says Egon. The gate swings both ways. It's not the only one, baby, shouts Prince. We should cross the streams. Cross the streams. Me first, bitch, cries Prince, flopping his cock onto the roof and pissing all over the Ghostbusters, shorting out their proton packs and electrocuting them to death. The excitement is too much, and, laughing maniacally, the giant Prince jizzes all over Walter Peck and the rest of the city. Vince Clotho will remember this day for many millennia.
It's quite graphic, that one, isn't it?
First of all, when you start describing the imagery and then the kind of purple sinewy figure,
I was like,
imagined it was a dildo.
I was
Yeah,
going to
that's
say,
what I wanted you to imagine.
I just thought it was just going to be a Johnson. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Well, I'm a lot more innocent than you two guys, obviously, because I was thinking Barney the dinosaur.
Oh, of course.
Pissing on them to death and then jizzing everywhere.
Well, I just thought about, what happens in the film.
Just,
right.
The exact same thing with Prince.
Analogous to Marshmallow.
Right, yeah. Peck getting jizzed on.
So how the hell would they know Prince is coming? Oh, he's always been there. He's immortal.
He's immortal, yeah. And Shandor got the artists that worked on the interior decor of the hotel to put in frescoes and reliefs depicting Prince. And Ray, he kind of doesn't know that he's looking at them, but when he gets to the roof, all he can think about is Prince. And there, Prince appears. And, crossing the streams, something that people do at a public urinal, isn't it? So I thought, right away, I thought, Prince should piss on them. And...
It's only polite, isn't it? Challenge the person next to you, be they stranger or friend, to have a little sword fight with your piss streams.
You don't even have to say it. You just start nudging it over, and then you give them the look.
You just look over the other
them the
side,
little
don't you?
smile
And look
and
at
wink.
Johnson. Yeah.
Then when they look back at you, like angry, you go, cross the stream. And then it's understood.
Was the cross the streams thing? Is that something that we've always done, or is that something that was inspired by Ghostbusters? Because
I think
at first
maybe
I
it
thought
was just-
crossing the streams could have been inspired by Ghostbusters, but then I remember actually sword fighting.
I think
Yeah.
sword fight, isn't it? Yeah.
I think Ghostbusters Across the Streams is a joke about that.
Prince in real life was very short, though, wasn't he? He was only 5'2".
No, you're thinking of Reeves and Mortimer, where he lives. It's only wee, isn't he? It's his little wee romper suit. You have to
maybe
look
a
at it under
bit,
microscope.
maybe a bit too wee.
Yeah, but Stay Puft Marshmallow Man isn't 100 feet on the bag of the marshmallow, so
Yeah.
he's 100 feet tall in this just because that's
Yeah,
what
but
size Gozer wanted to be.
Prince was kind of lightly mocked, though, wasn't he, for being quite short and stuff like that. So
I think he would have. That's why he would have been so aroused by being 100 feet tall.
He was 157 centimeters tall.
He was in a
Yeah.
constant state of arousal at the best of times. But imagine he's massive, and there's a church there with its door just wide open for him.
who doesn't get turned on by a set of church doors being wide open?
It's not the church doors; it's what it represents.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. The sanctity of marriage.
Sticking it to God.
Some truly diabolical schemes there, but who will get the votes? First, we had Turner's Hydra and Seek. Then
good.
we had
Nice.
the best succulent Chinese meal plan. We then had Ben's caffeinated chaos. And finally, we had my purple rain. If we're ready to vote, let's go round the horn and start with Turner.
Well, I liked the elements that were similar to the elements in my plan, so I voted for Craig.
Woo! All right, the best. Who gets your vote?
I have voted for the person who I think seeded the plan the best, which was Turner.
Ooh.
Hang on, no one seeded it better than me. I used jizz.
Seeded it in the non-dirty way.
Oh, I see. Ben, who have you voted for?
I voted for the Prince of Jizz.
Prince Charming.
And I voted for the plan that I felt was A, the most brutal, but also because it used the phrase spooky brew, which really tickled me, and that was Ben.
Yay, Spooky Brew.
So, Gaz, oh fuck, you got a lovely beard on you. So, the best. What has that done to the season 5 leaderboard?
Well, now, in joint first place with 3 points each are yourself, Craig, and Turner. And therefore, in joint second/third/4th place are myself and Ben with 1 point each.
Wow.
Ooh.
Wow.
It's really hotting up.
Yeah. Well, speaking of things hotting up, next week, Ben is going to be hosting. So, Ben, what turd are you tasking us to polish?
Well, we're going to go for an altogether more modern movie.
Modern,
Released
look at me. Ooh,
Only
relevant.
last year,
Oh.
we're going to be watching the Dungeons and Dragons movie,
Oh.
Honor Amongst Thieves.
And that wraps up this episode like a Murray the Mantis in a laser containment grid. Thank you for listening, and if there's something strange in your neighbourhood, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell, and leave us a review on the very platform on which you're currently listening. You can follow us on social mediums at DiabolicalPod. Next week, we'll be competing to improve on the diabolical plot of Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. Until then, remember, busting makes you feel good, and it's good for you, so please masturbate regularly.
I've got a new drug.
Huey Lewis, yeah?
Yeah. One of those things. I can't remember the words to it. I know the song, yeah, very well, really.
Did it, did it, did it. Did it, did it, did it.
Ghostbusters!
Wow, wow, wow.
I ain't afraid of no ghosts.
Wow, wow.
He likes
Nothing
girls.
makes me feel good.
Sorry, the cats are being mental. They're just like doing this at each other on their hind
They've
legs.
seen a ghost.
Hey, the best. When was the last time you were covered in ectoplasm?
Me.
Why you was picking on me? Jesus Christ. Last
your reactions are
night,
the best.
Oh, it got everywhere.
Your reactions are the best. The best.